Imagine you're out of your depth. The shore is further than you thought. The water is cold, and some animal part of you takes over. You start to fight it. You slap at the surface. You claw upward. You kick to keep your head high. And you feel yourself going down. Every ounce of effort to stay up is pulling you under. Now imagine the one thing that would save you is the last thing your panic will let you do. Stop fighting. Go limp. Lean back. And let the water hold you. Because it always could. The harder you try to float, the faster you sink. There's a man who spent his whole life pointing at that exact moment and saying it isn't just about water, it's about happiness, peace, the whole thing you've been reaching for. His name was Alan Watts. Watts called it the law of reversed effort, or, more plainly, the backwards law. When you try to stay on the surface of the water, you sink, he wrote. But when you try to sink, you float. When you hold your breath, you lose it. And once you see it, you start seeing it everywhere. The night you need to sleep is the night sleep won't come, and it's the trying that's keeping you awake. The name on the tip of your tongue that only arrives once you've stopped chasing it. The more you grip, the more it slips. And here's where it stops being a curiosity and starts being your life. The same law runs underneath your search for happiness. So stay with me, because this goes down in 3 steps. First, why? Reaching for happiness pushes it away. Then a different way of moving through the world, 25 centuries older than Watts. And finally, something stranger, about the one who's doing all the chasing. That last one is the whole point. Start with a small, honest observation about the word itself. To want something once meant to lack it. Watts loved this. To want pleasure, he said, is to lack it. The wanting isn't the road to the thing. The wanting is the announcement that you don't have it, and chasing only says it louder. Think of a fly in honey. The more it struggles to get free, the deeper it's stuck. That's you, at 2 a.m, trying to force yourself calm. Trying to relax is still trying, and the peace you're after begins exactly where the trying stops. Watts had this rhyme about a centipede, happy, running perfectly on all 100 legs, until someone asked it which leg goes after which, and the centipede, suddenly self-conscious, thinking about every single step, lay there in a ditch, unable to walk. Attention can do that. The moment you stand outside a natural thing and try to run it by hand, you jam it. There's an old story that says it in 4 words. A young man comes to a master and asks, "How long until I master this?" 10 years, says the master. The young man leans in. "But what if I train twice as hard, day and night?" And the master says, "Then, 20 years. The straining itself was the delay. You weren't chasing the thing. You were chasing the moment the wanting would finally stop. And now the unsettling part, because it's not just old wisdom, it's in the data. Psychologists have found that the people who place the highest value on being happy tend to end up less happy and lonelier than those who don't. The pursuit itself became the obstacle. There's a famous experiment where people are told, simply, don't think of a white bear. And of course, they can think of nothing else. Push the thought away, and it pushes back. Even the clinics know it. A psychiatrist named Viktor Frankl treated people who couldn't sleep by telling them to lie down and try to stay awake as long as possible. The effort turned around, and sleep, no longer chased, quietly arrived. So here's the first thing to actually do with this. Next time you feel yourself straining for some inner state, calm, confidence, closure, ask one question: am I thrashing? Just naming it loosens the grip a little. That's step 1. But if effort is the trap, isn't the answer to just give up, go limp, do nothing, call it wisdom? No, and this is where a much older voice corrects us. 25 centuries ago, Lao Tzu gave this idea a name, Wu Wei. It's usually translated non-doing, which makes it sound like a hammock. It isn't. Wu Wei is not no action. It's effortless action. Action with the grain instead of against it. Watts explained it with a piece of wood. Try to cut against the grain and the wood fights you the whole way. Go with the grain and it splits clean. Let the saw do the work, he said. Easy does it. You're not doing less. You're doing it without the war. Look at how water actually behaves. It never strains. It yields to every obstacle. And it carves canyons. It's the softest thing there is. And nothing is better at wearing down the hard. Or think of the shock absorber on a car. It survives the road not by bracing rigid against every bump. It survives because it gives, and yet stays in place. That's the difference between the willow and the pine in a snowstorm. The snow piles onto the stiff pine branch until it cracks. The willow bough just bends, drops the weight, and springs back up. It doesn't win by being strong. It wins by not resisting. That's not weakness. That's the strategy of everything that lasts. So what does Wu Wei look like for a mind that won't settle? Lao Tzu gives us the image, and it's the quietest instruction in all of philosophy. Do you have the patience, he asks, to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? You've watched a glass of muddy water. You cannot hurry it clear. Stir it, even with good intentions, even with your best technique, and you cloud it again. Muddy water is cleared by one thing only, being left alone. Your mind is that glass, and everything you do to force clarity is another spoon in the water. So the second thing to do is nothing, deliberately. One breath where you stop reaching for the outcome and let the mud settle on its own. Not a technique, the end of technique. And now the floor drops out. Because there's a question we've been circling, and Watts walks us straight into it. Who is doing all this reaching? Here's the oldest joke in Zen. A monk sits in meditation, straining toward enlightenment. His master picks up a floor tile and starts rubbing it. "What are you doing?" asks the monk. "Polishing this tile into a mirror." "You can't make a mirror by polishing a tile." And the master says, "And you can't make yourself into a Buddha by polishing your meditation." The very effort to grasp it assumes you're separate from it. Watts put the impossibility perfectly. You cannot grasp the one who's grasping, like a sword that cannot cut itself, or an eye that cannot see itself. The you that wants peace is made of the very restlessness it's trying to escape, which means the seeker, the anxious one reaching for calm, is the disturbance. There's no one behind it, waiting to be made peaceful. The reacher is the ripple. Let me give you the whole thing in one image. A small child, barely crawling, notices his shadow in the sun. And on that shadow, a head. He reaches for it. It slides away, exactly as far as he moved. He lurches. It flees. He crawls after it across the whole yard, and it stays the same distance, always just beyond his fingers, until he collapses, crying, exhausted. A monk passing by watches for a moment. Then he walks over and gently takes the child's own hand and places it on the child's own head. And the child, who could never catch that head out there, bursts out laughing. He was reaching outward for something that was never out there. He caught it the instant he came back to himself. You are not the one who has to find peace. You are the disturbance peace is waiting on. Now, the honest objection, because you're smart and you've already found it. If trying is the trap, then trying to stop trying is still trying. Trying to let go is one more grab. You can feel the loop. I can't force myself to be spontaneous, and I can't force myself to stop forcing. Watts saw that loop clearly. He called it the double bind, creating the problem by trying to solve it. So how do you get out of a trap where every escape is another bar of the cage? You don't. That's the secret. You see that you were never actually in it. William James told the story of a man who slips off a cliff edge in the dark. His hands catch a branch, and he hangs there, knuckles white, arms burning, for hours, certain that the moment he lets go, he dies. Finally, his fingers simply give out. He lets go, with a last cry of goodbye to his life, and drops 6 inches to solid ground. It was under him the whole time. All that agony was the holding on. So we come back to the water. You don't reason your way out of the grip. You don't add one more technique. You just, for a moment, stop adding and notice what's already holding you up. The clarity you were stirring for was going to arrive the second you set the spoon down. The third thing to do, then, isn't a doing at all. When you catch yourself reaching for calm, for closure, for the feeling of having finally arrived, don't fight the reaching. Just see it. See the grip for what it is, because the seeing is the one thing the grasping could never manufacture. That's the whole of it. Not a better stroke, not a harder kick, just the moment you stop fighting the water and feel it do what it was always going to do, hold you. You were never meant to fight it. Stop trying to float and notice you already are.